Hey there, and welcome to another trip report. Right now, I'm on board Air Canada Flight 419 from Montreal to Toronto, where I'll be catching a connecting flight with Air Canada at 8:10 p.m. this evening to Barcelona in economy class. The flight I'm on right now was due to depart Montreal at 4 p.m., but was delayed 50 minutes to 4:50 p.m., but thankfully I had built almost 3 hours of connecting time in Toronto into my trip, so I should still have plenty of time once I arrive. Touching down at Toronto's Pearson International Airport at 6:10 p.m., we're now taxiing over to the domestic section of Terminal 1. Since my connecting flight to Barcelona is also with Air Canada, I don't have to change terminals this evening and I'm simply able to walk from the domestic D gates over to the international E gates, where my next flight will depart from, without having to re-clear security. In total, it's about a 15-minute walk from the domestic part of the terminal over to the international area. After stepping off my first flight at 6:30 p.m., I have 55 minutes before my flight to Barcelona boards at 7:25 p.m. I checked in one piece of hold luggage in Montreal, but it's tagged all the way through to Barcelona, so I don't need to collect it and recheck it here in Toronto. To get from the D gates to the E gates, there's a dedicated walkway on the upper level of the terminal. They also use flags or symbols on all of their signage here to make it super clear where you have to go. This area for connecting passengers has a help desk with departure information and terminal maps to help you figure out where you need to go. Talking a bit about the entry requirements for Spain, which is my destination country for this trip. As of July 2022, all travelers are required to provide proof of vaccination against COVID-19. For EU citizens, Spain accepts the EU COVID Digital Certificate as proof for entry, but for those who don't have the EU COVID certificate like myself, you have to fill out the Spanish Health Control form and receive the QR code anytime within the 2 days prior to your arrival in Spain. Completing this form is quite straightforward and involves entering your personal information and the details of your vaccination course. After submitting it, the QR code that you use for entry to Spain is issued via email almost instantaneously. It's 6:50 p.m. now, and I'm just arriving at the entrance to the international gates, which are down at the bottom of this escalator. In this area, there's lots of duty-free shopping, several restaurants, and of course the quintessential Starbucks and Tim Hortons. It's quite busy here this evening as summer travel is in full swing, with people itching to go somewhere after a few years of being stuck mostly at home. This increased demand, coupled with lots of delays due to operational challenges, means tons of people milling around as we find ourselves here in the peak of the evening rush for international departures. I don't think I've ever seen this part of the terminal so busy, with all the available seating around the gates occupied and passengers forced to sit on the floors while waiting for their flights. Taking a look at the departures board, my flight is AC820, which is scheduled for departure at 8:10 p.m. from gate E77. Wandering around the terminal a bit more, along the perimeter near the windows, there are several different restaurants. Most of the gate seating near these restaurants consists of tables with an iPad at every seat for ordering food and drinks. Although these are very nice, they do take up more space than traditional bench seating, which could explain the lack of available seating. Walking down to gate E75, there's a food court area here known as the Park, with several different grab-and-go offerings like burgers, Vietnamese banh mi, and even a bar for enjoying a drink before your flight. Heading back over to my gate and getting a look at the aircraft taking me to Barcelona tonight, I'll be on board this 13-year-old Airbus A330-300. This aircraft was first delivered new to Singapore Airlines in March 2009, before making its way to TAP, Portugal in April 2017, and then finally to Air Canada in April 2019. Air Canada uses their A330s on quite a few of their European routes from Toronto and Montreal, as well as on several of their domestic cross-country routes like Montreal to Vancouver. It's 7:15 p.m. now, and boarding for my flight is due to get underway in 10 minutes' time. Air Canada boards their aircraft by zone number, with Zone 1 for business class and Aeroplan Super Elite members, Zone 2 for Premium Economy and all other Aeroplan Elite status members, and Zones 3 and up for economy passengers without status. Thanks to my Aeroplan Elite status, I'm boarding with Zone 2 this evening, even though I'm seated in economy class. Boarding got underway for Zone 1 passengers at 7:20 p.m., 5 minutes ahead of schedule, and boarding for Zone 2 passengers quickly followed at 7:22 p.m. We're boarding the aircraft through 2 doors today, with one for business class and the other for economy and premium economy. I'm boarding the aircraft through the second door, meaning I bypass the business class cabin and enter into the premium economy cabin. Business class on this aircraft consists of 32 lie-flat pod-style seats in a 1-2-1 seating configuration, while premium economy consists of 24 extra reclining seats in a 2-3-2 seating configuration. Moving into the economy cabin, seats here are in a 2-4-2 seating configuration, with 241 economy seats in total. The economy cabin is divided into 2 sections by a set of lavatories in the middle, and my seat for tonight is 39K, which is in the rear section of the economy cabin. Taking a look at the seat, the surface is fabric with a leather headrest at the top. These are the standard seats used on Air Canada's wide-body fleet, which differ slightly from their narrow-body cabin interiors. In general, the new cabins on these A330s are pretty impressive for an older plane, with Air Canada actively retrofitting their A330 fleet to the same newer cabin style found on their Boeing 787 and 777 aircraft. In economy and premium economy, this means new slimline seats and larger entertainment screens, while in business class the layout is changing from 1-1-1 to 1-2-1, and the cabin is decked out with similar pod seats to those found on Air Canada's 787 and 777. In economy, every seat is equipped with a huge Panasonic EX3 entertainment screen, definitely the largest I've seen in economy on any of Air Canada's aircraft, and a huge improvement over the screens in the old A330 cabins. Looking at the space in the seat a bit more, the width and legroom are fairly standard, with a width of 18 inches and a pitch of 31 inches, which for me, at 5'10", is enough space to be reasonably comfortable. Under the seat in front, there's what looks like an electrical equipment box on the right side, but it's not very large and shouldn't pose much of an issue, with my large backpack fitting under the seat quite easily. In addition to under-seat storage, there's also space in the overhead bins, which are able to accommodate standard-sized rollerboard bags with no problem. These bins do seem a lot smaller than those on Air Canada's 787 or 777 aircraft, and they did fill up with bags rather quickly. Popping the seat into its fully reclined position, you can see compared to the adjacent unreclined seat that it doesn't recline very much, with Air Canada's website claiming 5 inches, but that seems like it might be a bit of an overestimate. On the plus side, the headrest on each seat is height adjustable and equipped with folding sides to provide extra support. On the panel above the seat, there are personal reading lights, but unfortunately no personal air conditioning vents. Settling into the seat, there's an armrest on either side, with the one between the pair of seats being movable. Taking a look at the seat back in front, we have the entertainment screen for my seat, which we'll tour later in the flight. Lower down on the seat back, we have a decently small tray table, which folds out for use, and is mounted on rails such that it can slide inwards and outwards. Below the tray table, there's a pocket for storing the provided reading materials and any other items you wish to place here. Looking at what's provided, we have the safety information card for the Airbus A330-300, an Aeroplan credit card offer, and a lightly used air sickness bag. A pillow and blanket were provided at each seat when we boarded, which I'll certainly be making use of later on. Once most passengers had boarded and settled, the cabin crew handed out complimentary earbuds to use with the entertainment system and Clean Care Plus kits, which we'll check out in a bit. Now that we've toured the cabin and the seat, let's take a look at the view out the window. Seat 39K is located fairly far back in the aircraft, so the view from this row looks out on the trailing edge of the wing near the rear cargo hold.
Just coming up on our scheduled departure time. Just been advised by our operations staff here in Toronto that we have some connecting passengers that are running a bit late. Good crowd of them though, about 25. They should be arriving at the aircraft shortly, and then we'll be underway. We are loading the last of the luggage as well, so that we should be closing that door up
8:10 p.m. now, which is our scheduled departure time, and the flight crew have just informed us that we have to wait for a few connecting passengers who are running late. By 8:37 p.m., 27 minutes after our scheduled pushback time, everyone's on board and we're pushing back from the gate. The safety information video is underway, and we're beginning our taxi over to runway 06 right for takeoff. Our flight time to Barcelona this evening is expected to be just under 7 hours, taking us across the Atlantic in the middle of the night and arriving in Barcelona just before 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Climbing away from Toronto in the gorgeous sunset lighting, the cabin mood lights are activated and dinner service should be beginning shortly. While we wait, let's check out the seatback entertainment system. For starters, as I mentioned before takeoff, the size of this screen is impressive, with fantastic graphics quality and really vibrant lifelike colors. The screen is tilt adjustable to allow for different viewing angles, and on the lower edge of the screen there are 2 headphone ports for connecting to the system audio, along with USB 3.0 and USB-C ports for charging your devices. The system itself is loaded with lots of on-demand content including movies, TV shows, music, audiobooks, podcasts, and games, with a good range of content available under each sub-menu. Each type of content is grouped into different sections by genre, recommendations, or other themes. There's also a dedicated kids content section as well. In general, the touch responsiveness of this screen is quite good, most definitely leaps and bounds ahead of the old A330 cabin screens that it replaces. Also on the screen, you can access the food and drink items available on today's flight, including the full menu for the dinner service and the light breakfast in the morning. You can also view your flight arrival information as well as destination guides, or information about Air Canada and their frequent flyer program Aeroplan. Hopping into the section with the in-flight maps, you have the option of viewing the maps in either full screen or picture-in-picture mode. For today's flight, however, there seems to be an issue with getting the maps to load, which is a bummer as I enjoy following along, so the progress bar on the bottom edge of the screen will have to do the trick. Taking a closer look at the destination guides, there are quite a few different cities across the world that are available here, but unfortunately, Barcelona isn't one of them. From the top right corner of the screen, you can control the overhead reading light, attendant call button, and access the settings menu where you can adjust the system volume, display brightness, and turn off the screen, as well as enable various functions like parental control and night mode. In addition to the USB ports on the screen, there are AC power outlets accessible to every seat in economy, with one outlet between every 2 seats. Taking a look at the Clean Care Plus kit that was distributed prior to takeoff, Air Canada has been distributing these kits to all passengers on all of their flights as a part of their commitment to passenger safety during the pandemic. Inside, we have some individual packets of hand sanitizer, some disinfecting hand wipes, and a disposable face mask. "45 minutes since takeoff now, and the in-flight dinner service is underway. The main meal options this evening are seasoned chicken in Caesar sauce with roasted potatoes and vegetables, or shell pasta with sun-dried tomatoes and a cream sauce. I opted for the pasta, and the tray was served with a water bottle, a container of celeriac salad, a pre-packaged cold bread roll with butter, and a brownie for dessert. A packet of plastic cutlery was also provided, with salt and pepper and a serviette included inside. Overall, this is probably the worst airplane food I've had to date, with the pasta overcooked and flavorless, the bread roll cold and hard, and I dared not test out the salad. Usually, the pasta option on Air Canada is a fairly safe bet, but that was not the case on today's flight. After forcing it down as the only decent food I'd be getting in the next 7 hours, the flight crew came through with a full beverage service. Typically, the beverage service quickly follows the distribution of the trays, but the beverage service on this flight was about 25 minutes after the trays were served, and I was so desperately looking for something to help wash down the food. Wine is complimentary on Air Canada International flights in economy class, but other beverages like juice and pop were also available. 40 minutes after the trays were handed out, they're being cleared away, and we can start settling in for the night ahead. Before trying to get some sleep, I took a walk to the lavatories at the back of the aircraft. There are 4 lavatories available to economy class passengers on this plane, with 2 at the rear of the aircraft and another 2 near the middle of economy. These lavatories at the back near the rear galley are quite small, but are well lit and relatively clean. The 2 lavatories in the middle of economy are larger than this one, and you can even remove the partition between them to make it wheelchair accessible. I love that the faucet is motion activated as well, as opposed to having to press a knob to get water released. Back at my seat, it's very dark outside, and though I can't view the in-flight maps, I would assume that we're somewhere over eastern Canada. I've got the blanket and pillow in position, the seat reclined, and I'm ready to get some shut-eye, with the cabin lights dimming for the night as we're just under 2 hours into our 7-hour journey. After 3.5 hours of typical restless economy class sleep, the cabin lights are coming back on, with 1 hour and 24 minutes to go before landing. We're still cruising over the Atlantic off the northwest coast of Spain, and breakfast service is now underway. The breakfast service consists of a plastic box containing a yogurt, a pre-packaged croissant, and a cutlery packet. A beverage service followed 30 minutes later, in which I opted for an orange juice. The in-flight maps are finally partially working, only functioning in picture-in-picture mode though, and not in full screen mode, but it's enough to see where we are. We're now cruising just above the north coast of Spain as we continue making our way east towards Barcelona. " 24 minutes to go before landing, and the cabin crew are clearing away the breakfast boxes.
Back and tray tables upright, and your seatbelt is fastened. Kindly ensure all your belongings and large electronic devices such as laptop, computers are safely stored in.
Our approach to runway 24 right at Barcelona El Prat International Airport will take us along the northern perimeter of the city, then out over the Mediterranean before turning south and back inland to begin our final approach. Sitting on the right side of the aircraft, I get some great views of the city and coastline.
and gentlemen, welcome to Barcelona. Local time is 9:46 a.m. Please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened and your baggage stowed until the seatbelt.
After touching down at 9:46 a.m. local time, we're taxiing over to our gate on the airport's Terminal 1. Barcelona Airport has two main terminals, with Air Canada operating from Terminal 1, while Terminal 2 mostly handles low-cost carriers. Pulling into the gate 12 minutes ahead of schedule at 9:53 a.m., my next stop is Customs and Immigration. All international arriving passengers clear European customs here on arrival in Spain. With lots of overnight flights from North America arriving around the same time as mine, the line for immigration is quite long this morning. After 45 minutes in line, I'm finally through. Next stop, the Spanish health checkpoint. You'll remember the form I submitted before leaving home and the QR code I received. That gets checked here. The verification process was very quick and there wasn't a line for this at all. Now I'm in baggage claim and ready to find my luggage. All the bags from my flight have already been delivered as it's been over an hour since we arrived. With my bag in hand, I'm ready to exit the airport and grab a taxi downtown. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this trip report. Now for some comments on the experience. Summer 2022 travel has been defined by chaos in terms of queues, lost bags, and delayed and cancelled flights. I would consider myself very lucky on this trip, as the only queue I encountered was on arrival in Spain, and even that wasn't too bad. I was able to make my connection in Toronto, my checked bags arrived with me, and my flight to Barcelona even landed early. As for Air Canada's economy product on the other hand, while I love the new cabin on these A330s that feature massive entertainment screens, updated power connectivity options, and a generally more modern feel, the meal service was definitely subpar. The main meal was barely tolerable, and the bread roll with dinner and croissant with breakfast were cold and stale. I don't typically expect much from economy class meals, but I've had much better on other Air Canada flights, and flights with their partners like United and Lufthansa. Nonetheless, this was an on-time, easy trip across the Atlantic, and now I'm looking forward to a week of vacation in the sun.